Hi viewers, hi subscribers, welcome back to Sokari channel. Today we are going to see an interesting and informative video. For those who are seeing our channel for the first time, please do subscribe our channel and support our channel. We will bring you informative videos on immigration abroad and interesting videos about lifestyle in USA and abroad. Come, let's go to today's video. Video is about the H1B preparation. I'm going to present you a series of videos about the H1B preparation. So the H1B filing date is going to be April 1st, 2020 for the upcoming year, and it's very essential to get prepared beforehand for that. The first episode in this H1B preparation series is going to be F1 to H1B preparation and challenges, which is from student visa to work visa in USA. Let's see, what are the ways to come to United States? So primarily, if you have a family, you can accompany them as dependents. If you have a job, if you seek a job in US, you can come and work using a work permit. You can come to US for studying. You can come to US and seek asylum or refugee status. And there are diverse visa lottery by which you can come and become a PR. And there is investment opportunities and also special programs. There are various legal ways to come to United States, and one of those is being a student and getting transferred to a employee in United States. So let's see the traditional scenario of a student being converted into a work authorized person, which is holding a H1B status. A student, an F1 in the F1 visa begins a relationship with an employer, maybe as an intern, doing the CPT, or being in OPT. CPT stands for curricular practical training, which is done during the course of the study, and OPT is post the completion of the study. So, employer, if the employer likes the foreign national based upon the performance and agrees to undertake the H1B process, that's where the change of status starts. So the foreign national will be working with the employer for a few years in OPT or STEM OPT status, and then converts into H1B, and then probably the aim is to file an LCA for permanent residence and work towards a green card. So this is a traditional scenario. So the current scenario is there is a huge demand for H1B visa, and we have a cap system involved in it, and it poses different challenges for the students. And relatively, where the PR option for students coming from countries like India and China, it really poses a very great challenge. So STEM OPT with the OPT totally allows the student to work for 3 years in US, but you have to get picked in the H1B lottery to work beyond that period. So this is why the traditional scenario is not best fitting for current day H1B demand and for particularly students from countries like India and China where the backlogs are huge for other options other than H1B. Okay, so we have seen myself talking about OPT, STEM OPT. Let's understand better what OPT and STEM OPT is. Basically, OPT is standing for the general one, that's a regular one, which is 1 year of work authorization post the completion of study of an F1 student. So, student can apply for OPT with or without a job offer, and the student will receive a employment authorization card in hand, and they have to start working uh, within 90 days after the graduation. That's one of the rule. And for the application of OPT, it should reach the USCIS within 90 days before or 60 days after the graduation date. So this is a time frame in which one can apply for OPT. And the card is usually good for 1 year, and the conditions are the students can should work for at least 20 hours per week, and it can be volunteering as well, but it should be related to the field of study. So this is the OPT in brief. We can discuss more about it in future videos about the entire OPT program and how to apply and so on. So this is to give you an idea about what OPT is. So in the OPT period, this, the advisors, okay, the one who work in the international office of the uh, University of the student, they have to ensure that the student is employed throughout the period and they don't accumulate uh, huge leave of absence, or the OPT is not running out of the time while application, or it is we have to be a little strategic about this, because the graduation date needs to be accounted, and when the if a student gets an offer for employment, that needs also be accounted. So strategically, it's between the student, the potential employer, and the international office. They have to decide and apply accordingly. For the employers, there is no cost for them involving in OPT. It's done by the student. The cost is borne by the student, and only thing is that they need to provide them a proper offer letter for the student. And there's no obligations like the employer should be e-verified, and there's no filing fees for the employer. STEM OPT. STEM OPT is something designated for the science, technology, engineering, and math degree, and it can be extended post the completion of OPT, and it is for 24 months. So there is confined regulations for a program to be STEM, and as I said earlier, we can see these separately in different videos about what is STEM program, why it was introduced, etc., etc. So the 24-month STEM period is granted only once and can be applicable for only one STEM OPT per degree. And this cannot be accumulated to and or stacked up upon to get 6 consecutive years, or it cannot be extended beyond that, even though a student does a multiple higher education degrees or multiple master's degrees. So overall, STEM extension can be done only once by a student. So this is about STEM OPT. Foreign national should be employed in the STEM field. That's the condition. And part-time work is okay, but unpaid work is not going to support this program. And it requires the designated school officer to get the evaluations and to monitor the students' record throughout the STEM OPT period. It has few conditions for the employers as well. The employer should be participating in the E-Verify program and remain in good standing. Any change in the employment should be reported to the designated school officer, and the student has to complete the form I-983, which is a training plan. So it should contain what the student will be doing in the uh, office and how it's going to help his or her training objectives related to the field of study. So both OPT and STEM OPT are considered to be work experience post completion of the higher education by the student. So this is what the USCIS expects for these two programs. Okay, let's come to the crux of H1B, which is a dream of most of the students who come to US and wanting to stay here for a longer duration. The H1B is going to be the stepping stone towards a permanent residency. So it is the work visa and it is defined as the specialty occupation, which means that this job requires at least a bachelor's degree as an entry requirement. Certain kind of jobs almost always qualify, but certain jobs never qualify under the H1B category. So the employee and the employer both must be understanding how this is working and how to file the petition very clearly and with proper evidences so that it can be approved without any hassles and hurdles. So, to know, most of you will be knowing by this time what H1B is and what are the basics. So, H1B is the temporary work authorization for a foreign national in US. And technically, a candidate can have more than one employer at a time having concurrent H1Bs. But mostly it is recommended or it is traditional scenario is working for an employer. Generally, it is valid up to 6 years and you can extend if you have an application for permanent residency. But it is granted usually in increments of up to 3 years at a time. And the dependents can be under H4 status, and there are some provisions for easy portability and extensions, which is like you can transfer from one employer to another by H1B transfer process, and you can continue your stay by H1B extension. And with all this said, so after 6 years or towards the completion of H1B, if your employer sponsors for green card under a suitable category, you can extend your H1B status accordingly after the 6 years period. So let's go and discuss more about the H1B process itself. So H1B status is defined a technical and special occupation for which there should be a prevailing wage defined and the employer should file the labor condition application with Department of Labor and then go ahead filing the H1 petition. And if a student gets picked up in the lottery, then the petition is processed and it is reviewed for approvals. So there will be a change of status petition filed along with this H1B petition. And also, it is very essential to apply timely manner for the dependents as well to gain the H4 status. So this is about the H1B and we will see more about the transfer and extension in future videos. So the employer obligations for filing H1B is they must agree to the foreign national and set out upfront about the position, the location, etc. And same has to be replicated in the petition. And it the employer should offer the uh, pay of transportation if they are hiring from outside the country. And there must be no strike or lockouts and must notify the change in terms of job uh, like upfront and there is a financial disclosure to USCIS, but it is usually minimal. These are like few employer obligations with related to H1B. And there can be site visit by the USCIS officials for reviewing an H1B employer. And the wage paid to the H1B employee must be as defined by the Department of Labor and it should be more than the more than or equivalent to the prevailing wage. So, which means that the prevailing wage is the weighted mean average for the position in the geographic area. What here the USCIS tries to do is that the specialized occupation and the candidate hired for the specialized occupation should be paid competitively, and the wages should be offered accordingly. And there are four levels of wages: wage level one, two, three, four, depending upon the uh, position and the profile. So this will be very well reviewed in the H1B application process. Filing fees. So there is a fees associated with H1B, which should be entirely bad upon by the employer. So there is a $460 of basic filing fee for the Form I-29, I-129, and the anti-fraud fee of 500, which is for the first-time petitions and not required for the extensions, and a training fee, which is $750 for employer having less than 25 full-time employees, and conventionally 1,500 for employers with 25 plus full-time employees. And the higher education institutions like universities, schools, non-profit, and US government-related entities are exempt from the training fee. And there is an optional 1,440, which is a $30 increase from the current fee value for optional premium processing, where the candidate can get the results within 15 days from the receipt of the premium processing. So, as I said earlier, the legal fees and filing fees, the employer should bear the entire fees. And if in case if an employer asks the employee to pay the fees, it may result in disbarment from the H1B petitioning process or fines. So this is really something which is looked upon by the USCIS. Okay, currently, what are the challenges with the H1Bs and how it's going to challenge um, a student who does a higher education here? The biggest challenge is the timing and the availability of visa and the quota per year. So only very small number of H1Bs are available every fiscal year, and USCIS starts accepting petitions in advance from April 1st, and then does a lottery. Uh, and let's see more about it in the H1B predictions category to see the what's the number of current quota for H1B, what's the probability for the US master's degrees holder, and what's the probability of candidates applying from outside the US. So let's see more detail about it. But in general, we need to understand that there is a small quota available, but the applications are in humongous number. And if you are lucky enough to get employed in a higher education institution, schools, non-profit organizations, or government organizations, you are exempt from this cap. So, which means that you need not participate in the H1B lottery process. So, there's something called cap gap, uh, which is particularly related to the student who is converting from the OPT status to the H1B status. It can be either OPT or STEM OPT. In general, converting from the student visa to the H1B. So this is a period between the end of OPT and start of H1B. And for example, if a student gets a H1B lottery picked up, which may be like they start OPT in June, but H1B is available only in October. And if you have a petition applied and your student work authorization is expiring, there's a grace period in between. That is known as the cap gap. So for which uh, the approval notice will help in the change of status effective October 1, and these has to be notified to the designated school official as well that you are applied and your H1B application is in process. So in generally, the duration of status is extended till October 1st until the H1B decision is uh, seen for the student. So this is about the cap. If there is a lottery and the employer's petition is not selected and the OPT ends, there's a 60 days grace period to remain in the US. And if you are STEM eligible candidate, you can switch over to the STEM OPT, and that's all uh, the options for a F1 student who doesn't get H1B picked. So this is a scenario about the cap. So having said all these scenarios and processes and the conditions, terms, it's really like a lot of challenges would be encountered for this highly competitive H1B visa. So the key things are how strategically to address the H1B sponsorship, both as a candidate as an employer, and knowing more about the graduation date and OPT filing date uh, provides the student to get maximum number of shots to win the lottery. And also, from the advocates or the legal firm's perspective, they have to file in a clear petition without any errors or with proper documents and without leading to delays or requests for additional evidence, etc. So everything plays a vital role. So strategically applying, making use of the OPT and STEM OPT effectively, working with a good employer, and working with a good legal firm. So, as I said earlier, so while filing H1B petition, uh, so it can be done if the student has completed the graduation requirements and about to graduate. So that gives some more like even more additional time frame or opportunity for winning the lottery. More, I mean, the more attempts they can go for uh, getting selected in a H1B process. So maybe like if it's not a certain period, it's not like say a good market or like employee the employment is not favorable. The job availability is not so good during certain period. The student can plan the graduation date a little later, and it all up to the strategy the student has. And looking forward for alternative visa status. And if you are already married, you can transfer to the other dependent visa category. And trying to get into the cap exempt employer, like working with your university and possibility of applying for green card, but it is obviously not a choice for a student from China or India. Maybe other countries it would work. So these solutions can help you avoid the cap process and to overcome the hurdles in it. So let's beat the odds involving these challenges as a student being converted to H1B. Hope you found this video informative, and in upcoming videos about the H1B preparation series, I will tell more about the H1B documents required, what are the H1B 2020 predictions are going to be, what are the possible volume of applications can come, and what's the probability for the master's degree holder who have completed a degree in US, and what's the scenario for those who are applying outside US. and how to handle a request for evidences smartly and convert it to approval. Let's see more about in upcoming videos. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Sokali.